All right, we're here. We're here. Yes, people. I have returned to my mortal body from pure ascension. Um, and yes, I have survived. Just to grace you guys with a very special episode near and dear to my heart. We you see the title of this video. Title of this episode. We talking about Venom 3: The Last Dance. Take it away.
All right, so I'm Demetrius,
And I'm Demetrius,
and Meech presents.
the Blur City podcast.
All right, so as we mentioned, we're wrapping up our October spooky month with Venom: The Last Dance. So we're going to do a movie review of that, just kind of getting into some pre-spoiler chat, related recommendations, then just recapping the movie, talking through it, certain questions that we have, and then also framing it from the perspective of where does Sony go from here with their Spidey universe, specifically post-Craven. But first, let's get that legal spiel.
All right, so the purpose of this podcast is to explore digital and print media. All sources we reference are owned by their respective companies, and our thoughts and opinions are strictly our own and reflect no biases or corporate agendas. Your discretion is advised.
All right, so for related recommendations, just if you haven't seen this movie, Venom 1, Venom Let There Be Carnage gives context into this movie, even though this one has kind of like a totally different cast except for one character that came over from the previous movies. So you can semi go into this blind, but Venom 1, Venom Let There Be Carnage gives a lot of setup. And then in terms of comics, this movie takes a lot of inspiration from the King in Black run, something that you're familiar with, Donny Cates, Ryan Stegman. So that kind of gives So that gives context to a lot of like who is Noel, what is Clintar, and this kind of like that backstory with it. They changed some things because there was no possible way they could keep it one for one with the comics, but we'll get into that. Anything else with the pre-spoiler chat? All I'll add is like for my theater experience, I saw this movie after a 5K. And I saw it at 8:30, so I was dying for most of the movie, but I toughed it out.
Yeah, and then for me, at least the only other thing, I mean, of course, you mentioned like, yeah, it's based on the Donny Cates run, which is like legendary, but also just for my theater experience, there was a kid in there that kept, just talking throughout the movie, and I almost wanted to King in Black him myself.
I know you hate kids, so once you said that, I was like, I already know what's about to happen.
Yes, like you can just imagine just like that moment in like anime when you just feel like when a certain character feels the murderous intent of somebody, and then you just see like that person just superimposed on them in the background. That was basically that kid in me. Because after a certain moment, he shut up for the rest of the movie, and I'm 1000% sure it was my murderous intent. Because
he felt the bloodline.
Yes, it was right before Ascension too, so I needed this.
All right. So with that, we are going to get into Venom: The Last Dance recap. Full spoilers in 3, 2, 1. So the question that I'll ask you is just how did you feel about Noel's intro and then the backstory, specifically also with the Codex, knowing that that is different from the comics?
So with that, right, I think for me it's like, okay, they immediately gonna like get to like Noel like expositing his backstory, which I'm like, okay, it's a little bit clunky because just the idea like, oh yeah, you're just gonna spout your backstory just out of nowhere. Like I kind of like it whenever like someone's backstory is either shown throughout a movie or like you get it or you like get it piecemeal throughout, like in a natural way. This kind of felt more like like a whole an exposition dump. But in terms of like everything, like okay, it was pretty like almost like one for one until like okay, like until the point where like as you mentioned the Codex. And like what a codex does and like what it's actually supposed to do. Like it's the main MacGuffin of the movie. I'm like, huh. So it's similar, with the idea of like, oh yeah, the codex is gonna contain like the DNA of the host, and it's gonna like it can help them like bring them back to life. But how it's used and implemented is mostly different. I know like Carnage used like a bunch of codices in the Absolute Carnage of it, and that was used to resurrect Null, or not resurrect, free Null from his Clintar, his prison, if you will. So like I can see like how that was kind of interesting. It was just the fact like they only needed one, and not a lot. I guess. I was saying, guess like considering the fact that like in this movie and slash like this trilogy, there's only really been like 1 to 2 hosts of symbiotes who are alive, so I can see that.
Yeah, it was very interesting. We'll probably talk more in depth about this after the actual recap, but the fact that they introduced Null in the 3rd movie when they kind of were like, yeah, this is the last, at least Eddie Brock Venom movie, and Null in the King in Black storyline is an inherently Eddie Brock storyline. So I think it was very interesting that they were like, oh, let's introduce Null, because I believe in the second one, it was either the end of the first one or end of the second one when they were sitting on the beach and Venom was like, hey, I can connect you to the hive mind. And I know we both, so I know we both picked up on it where it was like, oh, you have to be talking about Clintar. If you're talking about Clintar, you're talking about Null. And again, Null is like probably one of the most dangerous and deadly villains in all of Marvel with his introduction. So I thought that was a very interesting phrasing. And then also with the Codex, I don't want to get too in depth with the King of Black just in case people want to read it, but I know like that being something else that kind of triggers it. So kind of with that, we transitioned from Null's backstory and his CGI animation of it, and then into just Eddie being down bad in Mexico. We see one of my first Ted Lasso peoples with Danny Rojas in the previous one. So essentially we learned that the government is tracking down symbiotes, and then also Null sends xenophages. And then with the Codex, the only time that the xenophage is able to see the Codex is when Venom is in his full form transformation. So we kind of just like see that. I have a fan theory about the budget of this movie because it essentially was like, hey, you can't be Venom for most of the movie. So it was very interesting with that. And it ties into kind of let there be carnage with the lack of Venom in it. So we can go forward from there. You know, obviously he saves the dogs and then kind of like moves forward to go back to New York.
Yeah. Also, one thing you probably didn't pick up on was the fact that like, firstly, when they had like Eddie go back to his universe, it was different than how it was in No Way Home. And I was like, retconning already, huh? That's crazy. How did y'all mess that up? He just went from just fading back to his universe to getting sent through a portal, a la Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. But you know what? Neither here nor there. All right. So as I said, like Eddie, he's completely like on the run. He basically prime suspect number 1, persona non grata, excommunicado from all humanity. Also, do note that Anne Wang is not in this movie, and neither is Dan. So if you're expecting either of them to show up, don't.
All right. No new cast except for Mulligan
and one other person. So besides that, okay, so now we get to like Area 51, which is like being decommissioned, and you got Rex Strickland, played by good old Baron Mordo himself, and he's basically is like like he's working with a doctor called Dr. Teddy Payne, which is based on another comic book character named Thaddeus Payne. Essentially, she is like she got lightning struck, and her twin brother got murdered because.
I have a question.
Yep.
In terms of believability, so do you think someone would be smart enough to be a scientist, or because they're not NASA, but a scientist, but they're not smart enough to know not to be on the beach during a thunderstorm?
See, I was thinking that wholesale. I'm like, how sweat? Like how you, and also, it took me a long time to realize she couldn't use her like left arm.
I did not notice that.
Like, yeah, like if you notice throughout the film, like basically like she always like covered the arm and like always used her right. I never noticed, like it didn't take me until like almost halfway through the movie, like after her introduction, I was like, wait a second, she can't use her arm. What the heck? yeah, so like there's her, and then there's probably one of my favorite characters, Sadie Christmas, because she just weird. Yeah, and even Rex Strickland's like, why you wearing this Christmas pin in July? Come on now. Shots fired at all you Christmas in July folk.
Don't do that.
Yeah, shots fired at all you who start celebrating Christmas way too early. But in any case, right? So Eddie, Eddie and Venom, they decide to like hop on a airplane, and by hop on it, we mean like literally from the outside, just holding on for dear life. And while in full Venom form, and that's when the Xenophage says, "What up, my boy?" and go run his pockets on the plane.
Yeah.
He manages to completely suck it into the propeller, the Incredibles. But unfortunately, the Xenophages, they fully can regenerate from even being torn apart. And Venom, that's when he is like, okay, this is a Xenophage, came from Null. It turns out it has to be from a codex. So, and the only way to get a codex is if you were brought back from the dead, which technically I brought you back from getting impaled by Riot in the first movie. And now I can't be full Venom. So now it's just Eddie literally just walking through the Nevada desert, and he comes across a certain family.
With that, I'm kind of just gonna speed run this part because this part of the movie is my least favorite part of the movie. But essentially, hops on the horse, minimizes the horse, learns that he runs into the government first, I think. Yeah, he runs into the government first. They kind of like attack him. He ends up accidentally killing somebody, and then with that, him and Venom get separated for a bit, reconnected. The Xenophage comes, kills the government agents, and then like the one thing about the Xenophage I thought was cool was like when it ate things, it felt like it saw like a wood chipper, so you saw like the blood and stuff like just coming out of the back of it, which was crazy.
You know what it reminded me of?
What?
The merman in Cabin in the Woods.
So just kind of just like speed along with that. On the other side, we see Mulligan, who was the cop in the previous two movies. He's been bonded with symbiote. I don't think that was the toxin symbiote.
Well, no, it wasn't, because it was stated that like whatever symbiote he was bonded to in the previous movie left him for dead, which I'm like, that's clearly not Toxin's behavior, but whatever. And then he gets bonded to that one.
So that's when the scientists and then Strickland learn that that Null and the Codex, so that's like it catches them up to it, and then like Null is the end of the world. That's when he runs into the family. They are like gypsies, essentially, conspiracy living off the earth. They take him to Vegas with that, have a nice bonding moment, and then from there we kind of just like, again, this part is my least favorite part of the movie, all of this combined. So like, yeah, he does the slot stuff, meets Mrs. Chen, and then I'm gonna just stop there. Is there anything else you want to cover in between that part?
All right, so let's see. One is the fact that the dad of it, Martin Moon, he's played by Reese Ifans, aka the Kirk Connors, aka the Lizard from the Amazing Spider-Man movie.
I thought of Otto Hightower. Anything else you want to add? Just that.
You pretty much covered the basis of it. Just like, yeah. This is probably like one of my biggest gripes. Like at this moment when he meets Mrs. Shin, is the fact like, hey, Venom's like, hey, I want to Venom out and have like a dance session with her.
That's why I stopped at this part.
Knowing very well the Xenophage can track him in full Venom mode. All for him to just have a dance session with Mrs. Shin, even though it's shown that the symbiote can take full control of Eddie's body without needing to transform, and he can just tentacles out to simulate him to have control. I'm like, bro.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that part. And then also thinking about it, Meech, at the start of this month, so this scene gave me PTSD because of Joker Folie à Deux. So, because like we had the van ride where they were singing, and I was like, I started shaking, and I was like, oh my God, stop singing, please. And then they had the full dance scene, and I was just like, please stop. I knew it was in the trailer, and I know like it was like the quirkiness of Venom, but I was just like, I just had to suffer through another movie that did this. It was less bad. It was less egregious as the Joker too, but I was just like, yeah, I didn't like that part because of like it literally triggered the xenophage to come, and so like the government like gets there before the xenophage.
I mean, it gets there after the xenophage attack.
You're right, because he goes blind, and then they end up separating the two, and then take it away. The thing that for me didn't make sense in this part, before we get to the part of the movie that like it picked back up for me, it's clearly established that the xenophage is blind when they're not together. Now it can quote unquote see or is aware of its surroundings, but the fact that it followed a helicopter all the way to the base kind of was like, it was like, yeah, because it's blind, he doesn't care. Why would it want to follow the helicopter all of a sudden? That kind of didn't make any sense to me. So that was just kind of like, we need to get from point B to point C for the finale. I kind of right in that whole like part. So with that, we get to the back to the facility. So with this, I was trying to like, we'll get there. So with that, he meets Mulligan. He doesn't have Venom on him. Venom separated. He's deteriorating because he doesn't have Eddie. So he meets, again, it's not toxin, but Mulligan's symbiote. He's like, hey, we have a whole host of symbiotes below. Lead them.
Got it, the
So like,
lead a boy.
So if that Strickland comes out because he takes control, he's like, yo, I'm sick of this. I'm running things. I'm the H and I see up in here. So he takes over and it's like, you know what? You kill one of my people. We also can't have like one of y'all got to die. Boom, shoots Eddie immediately without thought. Venom pops up out of Christmas and then it kind of bonds and then we get into like the main fight scene. So at first I was trying to start naming the symbiotes that I remember from like the Life Foundation and just like the first Lethal Protector, but then I was like, I don't know, it's hard to tell because some of them look so vastly different, and then it also looked like there were even more symbiotes. Because like I'm pretty sure like when you heard they're like, oh, 6 symbiotes, you were like, oh, boom, 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 boom. So
for me, right? Like when I was noticing them, because as I said, like it's all out war at this point. The xenophage is attacking, and then as it's attacking, like people are getting impaled, people dying left and right, and then the symbiotes get free and start bonding with the people who died, or bonding with Sadie Christmas, who gets the Lasher symbiote.
That's who that was. Okay, I was like, this is the one that looks familiar to me.
Yeah, so we see like a bunch of symbiotes. We see like as I mentioned, Lasher. Then you get like a yellow one. Obviously, that's the phage symbiote. That's obviously that one. And then you get one that's like 2 just blue ones that merge together into the 2-headed boss from Callisto Protocol. Yes, I had to bring that back up, but that one, that is wholly original. I'm like,
what's the fire one?
And I was about to get to that because there's been no symbiote that's like a fire-based one, but like with the way like it's like red and then like had the glowing orange chest, it reminded me of the Ultimate Universe's Carnage symbiote, which is more of a vampiric entity than an actual symbiote because it doesn't bond with anybody. It just sucks out their life force, a la Morbius. That's why did no, I was actually talking about the 90s cartoon with the suckers. Yes, because we do not reference that movie at all. But yeah, so essentially it's all hands on deck. As I said, people dying left and right. Symbiotes are dying left and right to the xenophage. Whatever they're doing, it's not working. Madame Payne, she like drives the family because the family decides to be in Area 51 when everything went down.
Yeah.
But I'm like, why do you like this? And of course, like family, they get away. Of course, they find out Eddie's Venom. And of course, like again, everything's going sideways. Rex Strickland, like he like lighting up the xenophage, and then no, and then the xenophage just like makes a call, and he's like, and Noel's like, oh, he found the codex. Send another one.
Send them all.
Send them all, and then only one extra one pops up, and he's just like, well, I guess I understand why. Like, if you sent all of them, everybody dead. Movie's over.
Yeah.
Which actually would have been nice, but
Well, you saw after like the explosion part and like they were recuperating within the broken down helicopter, there were starting to be more that popped up that led to like the final scene.
yeah. So yeah, Venom decides like, all right, look, the only way to get rid of this guy, because now we're getting to the end of this movie, because like essentially everything's going sideways. The Lasher symbiote gets killed, but Sadie Christmas is still alive. And there was an explosion because no, wait, that's
A lot of explosions.
there was tons of explosions. Folks getting lit up, rocket launchers getting shot out, xenophages regenerating, and Eddie decides, no, the symbiote Venom decides like, all right, Eddie, I need you to live. And it's been a fun ride, but this is our last dance, title drop. And then he goes and bonds with the xenophages.
That was a cool scene.
Like he bonds with the xenophages and then just moves the giant like amalgamation to the hydrochloric acid.
Oh, that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, to the hydrochloric acid, and then Rex Strickland, who had gotten impaled at a certain point, he had to, activate the hydrochloric acid to, murder all the xenophages in Venom. Of course, the symbiote boots Eddie out and covers him with a door so that way he can be protected. And then as like they're getting melted, then Rex lights up a lighter, blows everything sky high.
Oh, I think that was a grenade.
Oh, no, it was a lighter.
I think it was, maybe. I can't remember.
No, it was a lighter because he flips it up.
Okay.
Yeah, so blows up everything. Blows up everything. And then, like, as the shockwave is going, it looks like Pain and Christmas, they're about to get taken out. But then Pain, like, she pulls out a purple symbiote from her pocket, bonds with it, and this purple symbiote is none other than Agony. And turns out this Agony symbiote has a power that no other symbiote had, which is super speed. Yes, she is the Flash of the symbiotes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd say saves Sadie and also allows her to use her arm again.
Because, like, when she popped out, how it initially looked, I was like, oh, is that Scream? And then I was like, Scream doesn't have super speed. I was like, I don't know any Venom symbiote that has super speed. So I was like, this must be something different. But that one scene where he went into the hydrochloric acid, that reminded me of Web of Shadows. If you choose like the good ending for Eddie Brock, where he like redeems himself and he's like, crawling, you just see like the huge monster Venom. So that made me think of that sacrifice. So that trying to just think. So basically Venom's gone. Eddie goes back to New York, which is what they were always trying to hope for. Sees the Statue of Liberty. They just kind of hit the flashbacks and stuff like that. He's also told by like a government official that, hey, thank you for your service. If you talk to anybody about this, you go into the deepest hole within the deepest hole. So with that, he's also cleared of all his crimes, gets a fresh start. End of movie. There is a mid-credit scene. Again, we're going to get into this. A mid-credit scene with Noel. Again, where he's like, okay, your protector is dead. Well, your champion is dead. I'm going to destroy everything. Even though, like, I no longer have the codex, I'm back in the cage. So now, and then there's also a final scene of like the Danny Rojas bartender person. I thought they were going to tease something, but I think it was just a callback to, they were saying like the roaches would survive anything.
Yeah, and then also like that vial that was on the ground actually had a sample of the Venom symbiote.
Okay.
From when Rex Strickland got that sample from the beginning of the movie.
Okay, because it like sparked for a second, and I was like, wait, did the Pain have the spark one? But if it's the Venom one, then that kind of makes sense. But wouldn't that mean the codex still exists?
Only if it bonds back with Eddie.
So yeah.
Well, I guess that'll go into like the theory section.
All right, so talking points. What did you think of the trilogy overall?
Oh, this one was kind of like a bit of a roller coaster ride of a trilogy. I think like the first, like all three movies, I think like it was okay as a regular movie, but then as a Venom fan, they do certain things that like make me semi disappointed. Like for example, in the Let There Be Carnage, there was no carnage. Carnage with a little C, not big Carnage. Even though he was barely in the movie too, and the fact it was PG-13. In fact, the fact that all 3 movies is PG-13 is actually a crime in and of itself, considering who Venom is. But so yeah, there's that. There's like no resolution on like Venom like sporting the logo at all.
Yeah.
Or like sporting the wings. Like if you have a null-centered Venom story, he got to have the wings.
Yeah.
And this one didn't, which I'm like, what the heck? So just different things like that, or just the fact like, hey, things just happen to Venom, and it's just like, oh, well, now I got to go solve this.
Yeah. For me, I think I enjoyed every movie to varying degrees, but like you said, the word that I kind of felt overall, I feel disappointed because I feel like there was a level that it could have gotten to, but it never did for whatever reason. I think one thing was the tone. With that, I think Tom Hardy eating the live lobsters was the best thing that could happen for the first Venom film. It was probably the worst thing to happen to the trilogy overall, because in Let There Be Carnage, the whole like rave thing and like the romance of it all made it weird and kind of like took away from, like, I felt like it's what I mentioned with the Joker, where it's like the dancing was like a part of the character that aided the character. It took away from the entire movie. So I feel like the middle part that I mentioned, where it's like once he was on the run up till when he got to Vegas, was kind of like the part of the movie where I was just like out of it, because I was like, what is happening? Like some of it's funny, some of it's not. And then it was like, okay, let's lock in. And so with that, and then also just like him not being a killer like that. I mean, obviously he's supposed to be a hero, but then also, yes. And then also, obviously the Spider-Man thing, which we'll get to a little bit later, with that, where it's like, they kind of hinted at it, they kind of teased at it, and then just never delivered. I just feel like they never gave us what we wanted in the second and the third movie. Obviously, the first movie, we didn't know what to expect, so they gave us more than what we expected. But I just feel like they never gave us what we actually wanted.
Honestly, he actually... and I know, like, this was one of the things where they said, like, in a script for No Way Home, Eddie was supposed to have a bigger part. He was supposed to be the 6th member. And I'm like, bro, like, y'all had a golden opportunity. Like, it was set up in Let There Be Carnage for him to meet Spider-Man. It was set up right there. It was given to y'all on a golden platter, and y'all fumbled it.
I mean, y'all had the Sinister Six sitting right there, and they stuck with the theory. It's fine.
Yeah, so, like, there's that. And also, I think, like, another thing for me that was kind of, like, taking me in and out was just how Venom's voice was done. Because, like, you know, in the first movie, he was deep the entire time. Yeah, like that dark and gravelly voice. Yeah. But then by the second point, he had, like, a much higher shrill voice, like, more happy-go-lucky.
Yes.
Which I'm, like, I was kind of, like, not okay with, especially, like, when it came to the very serious moments. Now, this movie, they brought back the deep, gravelly, serious voice, but also kept the shrill, like, higher-pitched one. I'm like, bro, keep a consistent tone.
It was weird that this movie was less than 2 hours, and, like, it looked like stuff got cut from it. I'm not sure, because the pacing of it was really weird, like, especially that middle part, and the fact that they said just, like, hey, you're not going to be the full Venom for, like, 60% of the movie. For anything relevant. But a question I did have is kind of, I guess, two things. What happens with Noel / who's the new Venom?
Okay, so first thing comes to, like, what happens with Noel, right, is the fact that they teased in that mid-credit scene, like, he somehow was already free, or like he was talking in a way that he was free, like everything will burn, or like he was gonna get free. I'm like, how? So, I mean, that's up in the air. Like, I really do want for, like, the King in Black to be kind of like a true generational threat that requires everybody to work together.
They said she's going to be built out over several movies.
On what side?
But it can't be the MCU. That's the thing. Because, like, if you're gonna introduce Doom, you can't just be like, oh no. Even if you do multiverse, and Noel isn't a multiversal character like that.
Well, I mean, kind of, but not really. But also the fact that even in the movie, they said like Venom said like, I'm tired of this multiversal shenanigans.
Yeah. So yes, and then like they only have one living symbiote left with Aggie, and as you mentioned, I love that character because I love Ted Lasso. We don't know anything about her other than that she got hit by lightning and her twin brother died. So.
And now, as for who's the new Venom, this is where the theory comes in. All right, so in the movie, like in the final battle, there's a quick and you miss it moment where like a Xenovage just bites a soldier's legs off.
Okay, yeah,
and then Rex Strickland refers to that soldier as Thompson.
Okay, and I miss him being called Thompson. I didn't even think about that dude at all.
Yeah, you weren't supposed to think about it, but then he said Thompson. I went, so to me, I'm like, hold on, y'all setting up the board. And also the fact that supposedly like the Venom symbiote's still alive with bonded to a cockroach, sir.
Okay, that was actually what I was going to predict, Agent Venom, but I was like, they didn't do any setup for Flash Thompson to Agent Venom. But I mean, if they do that, it's very loose, but it's not something that. Because, again, you're, like, the biggest Venom fan that I know. And I love Venom, and I, like, miss that completely. So, with that, I don't think they did enough of a setup for people that, like, are, like, let's say casual or, like, even just, like, know it a little bit. Like, and again, with Flash Thompson, one of the biggest character factors, again, he's inspired by Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
you like, Venom and Agent Venom and like all those like interconnected things are like legitimately tied to Spider-Man for important character reasons, not just like for cameo purposes.
Yeah, very much so. And yeah, it's just the fact like, all right, so yeah, like that proves to me like one of two things. One, there is no Spider-Man in this verse, or if there is a Spider-Man in this verse, because like Eddie Brock did say like, hey, he was kicked out of New York for years.
Yes.
I mean, it very well could have been a chance like Spider-Man was in New York in the time that Eddie was in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
And the symbiote just happened to be in San Francisco and never interacted with the symbiote. I mean, interacted with Parker until whatever happens after Venom 3.
Yeah.
It's just the fact, like, okay, hey, it could still be Flash Thompson. Like, it's just the fact that, like, that was put in there. And again, it was a blink and you miss it moment. I don't know if it was, like, more of an Easter egg or more like it's one of those things where, like, hey, we're going to tease this a little bit for the fans and have something in the back in case he pops up.
See, the thing about the tease that's crazy is that if you were going to do that, my thing is like you should have had a scene earlier where you actually show his face and stuff and just be like Thompson and you don't think about it. And then like in that scene that you're talking about, like when he pulls him, he calls him Flash. And then it connects and you're like, oh, this character is actually Flash Thompson, Agent Venom. And then you're like, oh, okay, if you're going to tell a Noel storyline, we have another Venom. Agent Venom is one of the more popular characters in all of Marvel. So I think that's one way they could have done it, but who knows? So something big that I kind of had is that we talked about it in our deconstruction reconstruction episode of the Sony Spider-Verse. And we'll probably just put that link in this episode. Sony, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Major League, the baseball movie.
Oh, yeah.
Sony needs to take out their marbles, shake them up, put them on the table, and put a Spider-Man in their universe. And he does not have to be Peter Parker. I know they're going to try to do a live-action Miles Morales. That's basically as confirmed as it can get. They need to have a Spider-Man in their universe, and they need to stop playing around with it. They just have to. Like, you can't keep doing this, because, like, a lot of their characters that they're introducing are inherently, like, orbiting around Spider-Man, and the fact that you don't have him in it does them such a great disservice, which is kind of like what we were talking about with that. So, and that can kind of tie into a little bit, but we'll see. Because then you would get the black suit, and then you can like tell another character with Venom as well.
But then again, I'm not sure they're gonna do that because for one major reason, this is kind of like a major announcement, is that they announced they're doing Spider-Man 4 with Tom Holland, confirmed to be released July of 2026, right after Avengers Doomsday. So, and then also, I don't think like this part did not get retconned, is the fact that, hey, technically, the Venom symbiote is like that piece of it from No Way Home is still in the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the fact he just happened to have left another copy of it in the main Venom universe that gets absorbed, and that's the one we see at the end of the movie. But yeah, so the MCU is gonna like deal with Spider-Man and the black suit. So I don't think they're gonna like do that again for the Spunk verse.
Then that leads into Secret Wars.
Yeah.
Which is when the black suit first got introduced. So you kind of touched on the relationship to the new Marvel, but the question that I think we both know the answer to is, can we trust Sony to deliver on the King in Black?
Nope. Absolutely not. He's too big. He's too big. He too generational. He too multiversal. Like, he requires
everybody.
Yeah, he literally requires everybody. And I don't know about you, but here's what I know. Morbius is dying. Craven is dying. Vulture is dying to King in Black. All right?
I mean, they're getting washed.
Madam Web is getting obliterated.
That's already obliterated. We're not doing it, Madam Web.
Yeah, so from what they have so far, none of them are making it.
They got Agony and Agent Venoms. Let's start from there.
Yeah, Agent Venom's probably, yeah. In fact, but the thing is with King in Black, right? Agony gets corrupted by Null. So Agony might be cooked.
Well, the thing is that Carnage is inherent to that storyline as well, like the lead up to the King in Black.
Yeah, and we don't got Carnage either. So, and
all right. So I'll get into something that we haven't done in a while, but the random fan theory. All right, so my random fan theory is that they had a budget issue with Let There Be Carnage and then also The Last Dance with it. And I think in the first movie, they were able to play around with him not being the full Venom until like only for certain parts, and it made sense within the storyline since it was an origin story. But I think like every time that Carnage or Venom or any of the symbiotes like were fully on screen in their full form, that cost them like 6 to 7 figures every time. And for that, they were like, oh, we have to limit this for most of the movie, because in the Let There Be Carnage, we saw Eddie and Venom get separated because they broke up, essentially. They were a married couple that was going through a split. They were separated. And then in this movie, at the start of the movie, they immediately went, hey, when we're in our full form, the xenophage can see us and, see the codex. And so we can't be that way. And they did it off and on, kind of. Like, it was really quick when they needed it to be, and then they would take it off. But the only time they were like, oh, let's actually do this was like the dance scene, which led into the final fight scene, where it was like full symbiote. So I think that there was like a budget thing where they were like, hey, we're not going to let like this be the full thing, which while I was thinking about it, I was thinking maybe that's the reason we don't get like a full-on Hulk movie from time to time. Just because like to do that level of CGI or however they generate it, it just costs way too much money.
And rights issues, but yeah.
Yeah, we touched on the Hulk thing a lot with Universal. But yeah, that's my fan theory about why we don't always get as much Venom as we originally thought.
And you know what? That is a theory I can get behind, especially considering the fact that, like, hey, if Sony ain't about anything else, they about their money. And they have a pretty big thing about either rebooting or completely ixnaying whatever you had planned just because of the fact like something just either didn't make money or they're trying to make something as low budget as possible to get the greatest returns.
So I think if you do Agent Venom, you can kind of work around it because he relies more on weapons rather than like, to an extent he does use the symbiote, but he relies more on weapons than like the actual symbiote powers. So it's like Spawn-esque.
Yeah, and also the fact that like the suit can be very practical.
Exactly.
Like unlike Venom, which is like a full CGI fest, like
You actually could see it more the CGI of it in this movie than previous ones.
yeah, but at least with Agent Venom, he's actually like a suit, like kind of like military grade armor.
You could
that's like looks like Venom.
Punisher-esque like on, and then you just touch up the mask a bit, and then kind of like just like have it slightly moving the skin, or you don't even have to do that. So
yeah, you don't even have to do that much. You can just literally be just military grade armor, paint a white spider over it, and just give him a black suit Spider-Man mask. Bam, you got your Venom.
perfect. So
And you can like literally leave the CGI moments to like whenever Agent Venom just goes completely enraged and like Venom's out.
and just with that, kind of with the theory of like the Xenophage seeing the Codex, I'm trying to recall the storyline with it because he only sent the one thing after, like essentially the dragon, and then like one other thing with before like Null started like really getting out, and then also Carnage, but like it couldn't see the codexes, right?
Oh no, it was that was something
else, the way they worked around it, right?
No, so in the comic book, right, the codices weren't introduced until after the first Grendel got defeated. And it's like, oh yeah, so these little codices like embedded into your spine,
Yeah,
and whatnot, and essentially like it's just like, hey, if you were ever bonded to a symbiote, you automatically had one.
everyone had a codice that was bonded. Yeah,
Yeah, so literally all Carnage had to do was like, all right, let me go down the list of who been bonded to a symbiote, pull out the spreadsheet with everyone's photo, as like, all right, time to get to work and just start taking people's spines out. Literally, that was all that was needed.
yeah. So anything else with that before we get into awards?
Nah, nothing else for me here.
All right, so we are going to get into our Venom: The Last Dance awards.
All right, so for the first award today, I decided to give it the I Did a Thing award, which is an award where it's basically saying like, hey, somebody just appears, does absolutely nothing in the film, and just contributes nothing, all right? They're just there. And it has to be a named character too. So in this case, I'm gonna have to give it to Teddy Payne. Because if you think about it, she literally does nothing until the very end where she bonds to Agony and then saves Sadie Payne from getting blown to bits. I mean, Sadie Christmas and gets before getting blown to bits, and that's it. Literally, if you took her out of the movie,
Nothing changes.
Nothing changes. Like, because Rex Strickland, like, he just goes AWOL and decides like take control of the whole operation, which if Teddy Payne wasn't there, he would have already taken control of the operation and would have continued onwards.
Mm-hmm.
Literally nothing changes. So yeah, Teddy Payne, you did a thing.
All right, we're saving our applause to the end. So for the next award, I'm going with the Please Don't Go award. So that's going to go with Venom. The fact that they played Memories by Maroon 5 at the end of the movie is bananas and showing flashbacks. Yeah, so with that, obviously, like, Venom's ending, that was like when it actually hit again. Just kind of just like, oh man, this is actually the last movie, and they really do have a special bond, despite some of the elements that I think we're taking too far into Hallmark territory. But with that, they did like mean something to each other, so that was really touching. And then his brave sacrifice at the end. So Venom, please don't go.
Yeah. And then for my next award, it's the Op of the Year. And technically, I have two, considering the fact that it's one, but it's really controlled by another. So I'm technically going to give it to the Xenophage, because that thing was on Demon Time the whole movie.
Yes.
Like, if it saw you, you was cooked. You was done for, and you just could not kill it.
Yeah.
It just kept coming back like Jason Voorhees, all right? So yeah, and I'm gonna say like this person for my final award.
And I think something with just like what would have helped elevate the movie is that if you think about the Avengers movies, the first Avenger movie, Avengers Assemble, this movie would be like if the Chitauri were the main villains of that movie and not Loki as a proxy. I think what would have elevated this movie if there was a proxy underneath Noel, could have been Carnage. That was
Carnage. What you mean?
Was controlling the xenophages. So I think that would have also helped elevate it. But for my next award, we got the We Jumpin' Now award, and this is going to the Venomverse. So with that, just like the part where the xenophages in the Area 55 it was the facility beneath Area 51. So with that, all the just kind of symbiotes combining together to kind of like take it out. I really love the Lasher symbiote. Them holding the xenophage together for certain parts, just kind of working together in aspects of that. And it was really cool seeing so many. I did not expect to see so many symbiotes on the screen all at the same time. I was thinking like maybe one more. I was thinking maybe Toxin, but that wasn't Toxin. And then he immediately got eaten. So I was just like, oh, I was like, at that point, I was like, oh, I'm about to be disappointed. And then all the symbiotes popped up. You got something.
Oh, yeah. So, random fan theory time. Yeah. So, but actually, I'm gonna give this last award right before I get to the fan theory. All right. So, final award: Lovecraft would be proud. That goes to none other than Noel, God of the Symbiotes, because he's clearly based on a Lovecraftian entity. Eldritch Lord of Darkness, sealed away. As soon as he gets free, it's wraps for humanity. I don't know what else to say about Noel, other than what I've said about him throughout the entire Venom Donny Cates run, is that he is a problem. All right. So here's the Brandon fan theory. So yeah, we talked about how the toxin symbiote just apparently left Mulligan for dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Eddie Brock's without a symbiote, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because in the comics, he does get bonded with the toxin symbiote.
Mm-hmm.
So if they ever wanted to bring Tom Hardy back, I mean, you could do that, or you can do anti-Venom. But I don't see the point of them doing anti-Venom without an actual Venom for him to fight. Or like a Venom, or like a villainous Venom to fight, aka Matt Gargan, Scorpion. Which technically
in that universe.
No, he's technically in the no, he technically
in that universe because like the not the Pelican.
The Vulture?
Vulture is like confronted him in like the end of the first first
Spider-Man, Homecoming.
So like Scorpion has to be in that universe technically.
I was just saying like it's because of the fact that like because it was. I think it was stated in more of like Vulture just showed up.
Yes.
So, and that just led to me like, okay, because it couldn't be Scorpion. So that's why I was in like Scorpion just could not be there. But yeah, so Flash. So yeah, Eddie Brock could be Toxin. But now it's time for our tiers for this movie. Tiers, S tier, elite, all the way down to F tier. So what are you giving this movie?
Cool. Okay. So this movie is objectively bad, in my opinion. But I was about to say thoroughly enjoyed it. I enjoyed enough of the movie to like have excitement, feel good walking out of it, even though I had slight disappointment. So with that, I will give it a C tier, just because there were aspects of the movie that I thought were really good. And I did enjoy the movie. And like, if you just make me enjoy the movie, then you've done your job. They could like take out that entire middle section of the movie, and I think I would give it a higher grade, but I'll give it a C tier.
That's a pretty fair judgment. I'm actually gonna agree with you there. It's C tier. Like it's perfectly fine. It's just bare bones. But like as a Venom fan, like yeah, it's very disappointing as a movie. Like it's very disappointing like final turnout. But as a regular movie, I just find it okay at best. Will I see it again in the theaters? Probably not. Like if it's on streaming or whatnot, like I'll watch it then. or like whenever I'm showing people like the Venom trilogy, uh, yeah, I'll just show them that then. But like on my own, I'm just pretty much waiting for like a reboot to happen and just waiting to see what happens to Venom next.
Yeah, sometimes you get gourmet sandwiches. Sometimes you get sandwiches from the grocery store. At least it wasn't a sandwich from a gas station like Joker 2. So,
Ooh. Mm.
so with that, we'll get into what's hot. So that's what's popular in anime, movies, TV shows, gaming, and the whatnot. But before we get into that, we have to talk about the Blade cancellation.
Woo! Yeah, yeah. So, in case you guys don't know, the Blade movie, which is supposed to be starring Mahershala Ali, he apparently the movie is now been delayed indefinitely. Which, for people who don't know, that basically means the movie's not coming out. It ain't happening. Movies that get delayed indefinitely, they don't usually happen. On very rare occasions, it comes out, and
Kind of.
yeah, so very rare occasions. And this is like, for me, I'm like, bro, this movie, because this movie had problems just off jump, like many different writers coming in and backing out, many different like directors coming in and then backing out or getting fired, et cetera, et cetera. Haven't even started shooting yet. And yeah, it's like, it's kind of crazy, especially considering the fact, like, hey, this makes that scene in Deadpool and Wolverine, it made it age well for completely different reasons.
Yes.
Because at first you thought like, oh yeah, it's because of the fact they got like another Blade movie. No, it's because of the fact like Deadpool's like, yeah, technically he's right. There is never going to be another Blade movie because he's the only Blade.
It's weird. Like this movie and then also Armor Wars for me, I'm just like, what are we doing right now? Because like with Armor Wars, I believe it was originally supposed to be a TV show. And then they were like, hey, let's make it into a movie because the plot of it is too complex or something like that. But yeah, just with Blade, the fact that there are so many iterations of it and it never felt like it got started at all, which I'm very confused about because like we just got the announcement of the Fantastic Four cast this year and the movie's coming out next year. We knew Ali was going to be Blade for like the past 4 or 5 years and nothing happened. So I'm a bit, I don't know what the issue is. I don't know what happened behind the scenes. Because I want to say, like, there was a lack of importance on Blade, but I don't know if there were this many changes. So,
also, you brought up a very good point with Armor Wars, because if you remember, Armor Wars was supposed to be a Rhodey-led movie. Yeah. So for me, I'm like, hold on, what is up with all these, like, black-led superhero films that are kind of getting shafted?
well, because Ironheart was supposed to be a TV show, I think it's still coming out.
I have no idea. We have heard nothing about the Ironheart series.
But it's supposed. But I mean, it has to tie into Armor Wars. Is the crazy thing because she's like the successor to Iron Man. So I mean, I don't know. We're hoping for Captain America, Brave New World, which should not have changed its name from New World Order. So. That's our only hope because I don't think we might not be getting another Black Panther because there was supposed to be like the story about like the what's the name of the woman group, the Dora Milaje.
The Dora Milaje.
I think there was supposed to be a TV series about that, but then again, Disney ended up because of a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes and then the upper management and like who's in charge and stuff like that, where they're kind of going back to the movie model and then less on the side of TV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then also don't forget, not only did Ironheart kind of get shafted, also technically we still don't even know what's happening with the Spawn movie. All right, well that movie kind of been in development hell since 1997. So that's not happening. The only time I'm like seeing news about like a certain black lid kind of like thing is besides Beyond the Spider-Verse, which is still happening. Is when they revealed that they casted Jon Stewart for the Green Lantern.
That's true. And that's a TV show, but I mean, that's fine. That dude is going to kill it. Let me just say, if you've seen Rebel Ridge, he's going to kill it.
Man. Oh, Aaron Pierce about to go crazy.
Yeah, that popularity about to shoot up. So, yeah, I mean that's the only really thing that I can think of regarding that. But I mean, I hope we get a Blade one day. I don't know. It might not be till 2030 though. So,
Yeah.
all right, let's get into what's hot.
All right. So anime, right? We got Don to Don. Which
It's incredible.
Yep. If you don't know what the show is about, just go watch it.
Go in blind. Go in
blind. Don't look it up beforehand. Just boot up the first episode. You'll understand immediately. We also have One Piece, which is going on hiatus very soon. We also have Bleach, 1,000-Year Blood War, and boy, that last episode.
I feel like they're putting a lot of stuff in the anime that wasn't in the manga.
Oh yeah, 100.
I remember a lot of this stuff.
100%, because like I looked it up like right after watching the newest episode. It's like, yeah, this is all anime only footage. Because I'm here like, hold on, Ichigo only used the Getsuga Jutsu one time in the manga, and he's just out here spamming it.
So yeah,
spamming the cross of Getsuga, and then getting his face blown in by Yuhaba. But that's neither here nor there. So okay, so we got that. That's going dummy right now. All right, next up, Dragon Ball Daima.
Yeah,
is a fun adventure. It's starting to pick up the pace. Like, it's not GT2.
Did they say how many episodes it will be?
No.
Okay.
And then also there's Blue Lock the animation.
Yes.
Blue Lock the animation. So newest episode drop. And actually I tried to like count how many steel frames there were, like just blanks, and then
dude, I did not notice that until you pointed it out. I did not notice it until you pointed it out to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't notice it either until it was pointed out to me. Now I gotta point it out for the rest of the world, for the rest of the audience. So good luck.
Do you think they're saving the animation for the under 20 versus the Blue Lock team? Maybe
that. Yeah, I think so. Also, did the Nagi movie come out?
I think it did earlier. In the year.
So yeah, it might be just for the tournament. I'm not too like, that has to be it, because like, bruh, this is getting kind of egregious. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, now moving on. We got good old Penguin. It's getting serious out here. At the time of this recording, we hadn't watched the new episode yet, but
it trick drops in 3 minutes.
But let's just say I'm scared. I'm scared for a few people right now, because it's.
You think his mom gonna get it?
Yeah. I know she is. There's no way you're gonna set up Squid, like seeing them get into that apartment and have it not come back up.
Dang it. You're right. I'm really afraid Vic is gonna be Zaz. I'm really afraid he's gonna be Zaz.
I'm scared too. I hope it's not like his complete and total degradation, but part of me is like, they don't need an enforcer.
But man, Zaz's story, like the fact that he like scores himself and marks his kills, that means Victor is going to have to mentally break, and I'm scared to see that.
He gonna have to catch multiple bodies.
Oh my gosh!
And as of right now, he got like a body count of what?
One? He hit one person with a car so far.
Yeah, and we don't know if he. Oh yeah, we know he did. So yeah, he only got a body count of one so far. So we gotta peep and lock it. If he ever starts like scratching himself or like marking that one spot, like scratching in one spot, we know it's over.
What else you got?
Oh yeah, and then just finally like movies. As I said, like it's time. Gladiator 2, Wicked. You make sure you had that conversation beforehand with your significant others, because if not, you're cooked. Yeah, and that's all I want to say right now. What you got?
Only thing I got is that I believe next week Arcane drops. So season 2, which will be the final season of Arcane, it drops either next week or some part in the early parts of November. So with that, just some housekeeping. We're going to move into our mass character study series. So with that, we are going to get into cover 3 characters. Meech can explain deeper, but the 3 characters we'll cover are Doctor Doom, Obito, and then Darth Vader.
Oh, yes. As said, like we're covering 3 characters who are maxed up and are maxed. They maxed up. They villains. They out here and they causing havoc. All right. And main reason like we're doing this, well, of course, because of the fact like Doctor Doom is going to be coming out in Avengers Doomsday. But also just the fact like, hey, these 3 characters, they are actually more intricately linked to each other than you would suggest. All right, because in fact, like Doctor Doom was part of the inspiration behind Darth Vader, and both of them were part of the inspiration behind Obito Uchiha, aka Toby, and no, not Toby from Roots, but yeah, so that's why we kind of had to like mention them, and hey, it gives us a chance to analyze Darth Vader. Come on now.
Yes. All right. So with that, we can get our plugs and leave.
All right. So for our Instagram, X formerly known as Twitter and Threads, we're under Blerd City Pod. No, Blerd City 22. Like, comment, subscribe, stay up to date with all notifications. You can find our Discord in the Instagram page. Also within the Instagram page is our Blerd City apparel, which will be ending like the week that you're listening to this episode. When this episode drops, literally that next day is the last day. So cop your Blerd City merch now or forever hold your peace. We have our YouTube and our Patreon to Blerd City Pod. If you want to donate some extra cheddar, subscribe to the page, or donate even low as $1, you get access to very exclusive episodes never before seen on the podcast before. And then also we have ourselves our email address, blerdcity22@gmail.com. That way, if you want to send random fan theories, your thoughts on Venom The Last Dance, if you want to suggest like random fan theories and just different things of the like, even if you want to send like episode suggestions and hate mail, which will get sent into the spam box that'll see the light of day, go ahead, send it there. Finally, I am the Jedi Born on Mustafar on Instagram and TikTok, however long we got TikTok left. And that's all I got. What you have?
All right, for my individual author pages, we have my Instagram, Metri_dash. That is METRI_DASH. For my X/Twitter, that is at the Mad-16. And if you're interested in my book, Phantom Reckoning, a most regular tale, that's available on Amazon, Kindle, and Barnes & Noble. So with that, we are going to wrap this up and leave you some words of encouragement.
All right, so for my words of encouragement, it's to cherish the times that you have with your loved ones and make sure you give them that very special dance, because you may never know when that dance might be the last.
All right, so with that, we're going to say it's not goodbye forever, it's just goodbye for now. And that's the Blerd City Podcast.
See ya later.